as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation.
5 score years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today
signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This came as a great beacon of light, of hope, to many Negro slaves who had been seared in the withering flames of injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end their long night of captivity.
100 years later, the Negro was still not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro was still sadly crippled by the mantles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languishing in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. So we have come here today to dramatize that shameful condition.
In a sense, we welcome to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note, insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring the sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation.
So you have to come to cash this check. A check that will give up on demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have also come to this Halloween spot to remind the America of the first versions of now.
This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off, or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice.
Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. It would be fatal for our nation to overlook the urgency of this moment. This sweltering summer of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there's an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning.
Those who hoped that Negro needed to blow out steam and were not content or have been a rude awakening in the nation returns to business as usual.
There will be neither rest or tranquility in America
until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwind of revolt will continue to shake the foundation of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges.
Justice emerges. But there is something that I must say to my people who stand of the one there's so much ladies in the place of justice.
In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom with drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred.
We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with softness.
The marvelous new militancy that has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to distrust of all white people. As evidenced by their presence here today, they have come to realize that their destiny is tied with our destiny, but their destiny is tied inextricably to ours. We must not walk alone.
As we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall always march ahead. We cannot turn back. There are those who are asking the ways of civil rights. When will you be satisfied?
We can never be satisfied as long as our bodies, heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of highways and hotels of the cities. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one.
We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one.
We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped from their selfhood
and robbed of their dignity by signs stating for whites.
We cannot be satisfied as long as a Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and a Negro in New York believes he has nothing. For we get not satisfied. We will not be satisfied until justice flows down like waters of righteousness, like a mighty stream.
I'm not a metaphor that some of you have come here out of great trades and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jackals. Some of you have come from arrows, where your trust for freedom lets you, battered by the storms of persecutions and stronger by the winds of political brutalities.
You have been the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unending suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi, go back to Alabama, go back to South Carolina, go back to Georgia, go back to Louisiana, go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow the situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair.
I say to you today, my friends, so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. And that will be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day in the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transforming into an oasis of freedom and justice.
I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day be able to live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day in Alabama, with his vicious racists, with his governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification. One day, right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and little white girls as sisters and brothers.
I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low, the roof and places will be made plain, and the crooked place will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see together.
This is our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the south with. With the faith, we will be able to heal out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day.
This will be the day when all of God's people will be able to sing a song with a new meaning. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty. Of thee I sing, land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring.
And when this happens, when we allow freedom to ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, when we will be able to speed up the day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing the word of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.